On April 8, 1994, the world was rocked by the news of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain's tragic death from a gunshot wound in his Seattle home. His death shocked fans worldwide who had adored him for his unique voice and raw lyrics that spoke to the struggles of a generation. Having recorded just 3 studio albums over the span of 5 years, Nirvana were arguably one of the most successful rock bands of the early 1990s. But despite his success, Cobain was haunted by a deep sadness throughout his life. A sadness that stemmed from his parents' divorce, feelings of alienation, and the chronic sense of loneliness he felt, even when he was in the spotlight. The death of Kurt Cobain is a story that has captured the hearts and imaginations of music lovers around the world. Although it appeared that Cobain had found some peace and happiness after marrying fellow musician Courtney Love and the birth of their daughter Frances Bean in 1992, his tragic death remains a source of controversy. While most people believe it was suicide, some claim he may have been murdered. Whether or not foul play was involved, one thing is certain. Kurt Cobain's death was a devastating end to a life that ended far too soon. Despite the darkness that characterized his later life, Cobain was actually a pretty happy kid with a ton of artistic talent. His sister Kim remembers how he could just sit down and play any tune he heard on the radio and could make beautiful music and art from whatever was going on in his head. But that all changed when his parents divorced 1 week after his 9th birthday. His parents' divorce shattered his world, and he stopped eating, leading to him being hospitalized for malnutrition. He became increasingly angry, moody, and withdrawn, unwilling or unable to even engage in small talk with friends. Cobain's life took a drastic turn when later he moved in with his father. Still in shock from the fallout from his parents' failed marriage, Kurt asked his father to make a promise never to date anyone besides his mother again. Although his father, Don Cobain, agreed, he soon remarried, further alienating Kurt. Don later stated that he treated Cobain's step-siblings better than Kurt because he was afraid of losing his new wife. Don confessed, "I was afraid that it was going to get to the point of either he goes or she goes, and I didn't want to lose her." Kurt Cobain's teenage years were anything but easy. Constantly moving between his parents' homes, struggling and failing to fit in with his step-siblings, and attending family therapy sessions took a heavy toll on him. Many believe the emotional scars he carried would later contribute to his tragic ending. Kurt's passion for music started at a young age. He would draw pictures of himself as a rock star, and he learned to play the guitar. It wasn't long before he was jamming with other amateur musicians in Seattle, starting to play small gigs and steadily building a following. After years of searching, Cobain finally found the bandmates that would become Nirvana. With bassist Chris Novoselic and finally Dave Grohl on drums, Cobain formed the lineup that would soon become the biggest band in the world. In 1991, Nirvana released their iconic album, Nevermind, which received critical acclaim and became one of the best-selling albums of all time, selling over 30 million copies. Even at the height of his artistic success, Cobain's personal struggles persisted. His friends and colleagues remember him as someone who could be incredibly energetic and outgoing one moment and completely catatonic the next. His manager, Danny Goldberg, told Rolling Stone that he was a walking time bomb and that nobody could do anything about it. On the day after Nirvana rocked the stage on Saturday Night Live, the very day Nevermind overtook Michael Jackson on the charts, Kurt found himself knocked off his own feet by a heroin overdose. His wife, Courtney, woke up that morning to find him unconscious next to their hotel room bed, but was able to revive him. "It wasn't that he OD'd," she said. "It was that he was dead. If I hadn't woken up at 7, I don't know, maybe I sensed it. It was so fucked. It was sick and psycho." Sadly, Cobain and Love were already sucked into the vicious cycle of heroin addiction that eventually led to his tragic death less than 3 years later. It was in February of 1994 that Nirvana kicked off their European tour for their 3rd album, In Utero. Despite his marriage to Love and the birth of their daughter Frances Bean, Kurt was still battling his addiction and the mounting pressures of fame. After just 5 days, Cobain wanted to cancel the tour, a clear indication of how difficult it was for him to continue as a professional rock star while dealing with his loneliness and addiction. Cobain was on the brink. Chronic stomach pain caused by the stress of touring was taking its toll. He missed his family. He was lonely, frustrated, and angry. On March 1st, before a show in Munich, his anger finally boiled over when he got into a heated argument with his wife over the phone. That night, before Nirvana went on stage, Cobain rushed into the opening act's dressing room and confided in Buzz Osborne of the Melvins that he was desperate to divorce his wife and disband Nirvana. About an hour into their set, Cobain stopped the show, saying he couldn't continue, claiming to have laryngitis. No one knew it at the time, but it would be the last show Nirvana ever played. During the planned 10-day intermission of the tour, Cobain traveled to Rome, where he was joined by his wife and daughter. Tragically, on March 4th, Love found Cobain completely unresponsive due to an overdose of Rohypnol, a potent sedative that can cause respiratory failure and death. Apparently, before he lost consciousness, Cobain had left a note. Initially, Nirvana's management claimed that Kurt's overdose was accidental, but the truth was much darker. Courtney Love later revealed that Cobain had taken 50 pills and left a suicide note expressing his deep inner sadness. Despite his fame and success, Cobain's struggles with his marriage only intensified the pain he had experienced during his parents' breakup. He wrote that he would rather die than go through another divorce, a heartbreaking statement that spoke to the depth of his pain. In the wake of Cobain's suicide attempt in Rome, the band rescheduled their upcoming tour dates to allow him time to recover. Despite this, Kurt continued to struggle with both mental and physical exhaustion. He declined an offer to headline Lollapalooza, and he stopped attending band rehearsals altogether. Love made the bold move of strictly prohibiting drug use within their home, despite her own struggles with addiction. An addict will go to great lengths to get their fix, and Kurt was no exception. He would use drugs while crashing at his dealer's apartment or hiding out in random motel rooms. On March 18th, during a domestic dispute at their home, Love reported to Seattle police that Cobain had locked himself in a room with a revolver, threatening to take his own life. Thanks to the quick response of the police, they were able to confiscate the .38 caliber gun and various pills before any physical harm was done. Cobain himself assured the authorities that he had no intention of ending his life. An intervention was organized for Cobain in Seattle by his wife, relatives, band members, and management team, with the assistance of Stephen Chatoff from Anacapa by the Sea in Port Hueneme, California. The intervention was scheduled for March 25th. His loved ones were hopeful that it would help him break his addiction and save his life. Chatoff later described the meeting as very chaotic and that Cobain was in full denial. Tensions ran high at the intervention, as Love gave Cobain an ultimatum to attend rehab or face divorce. His band members also threatened to walk away if he refused to seek help. Despite the gravity of the situation, Cobain only grew more hostile and even lashed out at Love, accusing her of being even more messed up than he was. After the intervention, Cobain retreated to the basement with Nirvana's touring guitarist Pat Smear to play some music. Love flew to LA in hopes that Cobain would join her so they could go to rehab together. Sadly, this was the last time she and many of his closest friends ever saw him. During the memorial vigil 2 weeks after Cobain's death, Courtney admitted that her ultimatum was a mistake, saying that the 80s tough love bullshit simply didn't work. On March 29th, following yet another near-fatal overdose, Cobain reluctantly agreed to go to a rehab facility in California. Novoselic drove him to the airport. When they arrived, however, Cobain panicked. He couldn't face the reality of entering rehab and got into a fistfight with Novoselic at the main terminal. Despite Novoselic's efforts to restrain him, Cobain managed to get away and left the airport. The next day, Cobain reportedly visited his friend Dylan Carlson to ask for a gun. Cobain claimed he needed it because there were trespassers at his home. Carlson, who had loaned Cobain guns before, didn't find the request odd, and they both went to Stan's gun shop in Seattle and bought a Remington shotgun and shells for about $300. Carlson paid for the purchase because Cobain was worried about the police finding out and confiscating the weapon. Despite Carlson's offer to hold the shotgun until Cobain's return, Kurt declined. He left the firearm at home before flying to the Exodus Recovery Center at Marina del Rey, California. Cobain was only in rehab for 2 days when he called his wife and told her how great her new record was and that he loved her no matter what. That night at around 7:25 p.m., Cobain told the rehab center staff that he was just stepping out for a smoke, but instead he jumped over a 6-foot brick wall to escape. An Exodus spokesperson later stated, "We watch our patients really well, but some do get out." When Love was informed of Cobain's disappearance, she immediately canceled his credit cards and hired a private investigator to track him down. By this time, Cobain had already caught a red-eye flight back to Seattle and was spotted over the next few days wandering the streets of the city, allegedly spending a night at his summer home in Carnation and hanging out at a park. His mother became increasingly concerned and filed a missing persons report, suggesting that the police search the Capitol Hill district, known for its rampant drug activity. She feared that Kurt might be considering self-harm. Before he could be located, Cobain found his way back home and barricaded himself in the greenhouse located above his garage. The truth is, no one really knows exactly what happened those first few days of April, but what is certain is that the house was searched 3 times for Cobain while he was still alive. Strangely, nobody thought to check the garage or the greenhouse above it to look for the singer. On April 5th, or maybe before, Cobain used a small footstool to block the greenhouse doors from the inside and made the decision to end his life. He took off his cap and sat down beside the cigar box containing his heroin stash. Then he wrote a suicide note, which was later found near his body. Finally, he pointed the shotgun at his head and pulled the trigger. The story of Kurt Cobain's death has long been shrouded in mystery. The official report said he committed suicide by gunshot, but according to Tom Grant, the private investigator hired by Love to locate Cobain, the amount of heroin in his system would have made it impossible for him to shoot himself. Instead, Grant claimed that Cobain was incapacitated by someone who administered the heroin before shooting him. Although Grant's claims remain contentious, they raise questions about the accuracy of the official coroner's report. Grant also suggested that the handwriting in the second half of Cobain's suicide note didn't match his usual penmanship, leading to the conclusion that someone else wrote it in order to stage an apparent suicide. While Grant is not the only one who believes that Cobain's death was a murder, many handwriting experts dispute this analysis. Nevertheless, many conspiracy theorists consider it a primary clue to the potential for foul play in Cobain's passing. Kurt Cobain's suicide had a profound impact on the music industry and his fans. On the day Kurt's death was announced, Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam begged his concert audience in Washington, D.C. with a simple but powerful message: "Don't die, swear to God." Dave Grohl, Cobain's good friend and drummer of Nirvana, opened up about how he felt. "It was probably the worst thing that has happened to me in my life. I remember the day after that I woke up and I was heartbroken that he was gone. I just felt like, okay, so I get to wake up today and have another day, and he doesn't." As news of Kurt Cobain's death spread, fans flocked to his Seattle home looking for closure and a sense of understanding. Meanwhile, the Seattle Crisis Clinic reported a significant increase in calls that day, receiving around 300 compared to an average of 200. On the day the city held a candlelight vigil, Cobain's family held a private memorial. His body was still in the custody of medical examiners. The casket was empty. As a tribute, Krist Novoselic urged everyone to remember Kurt for his kind and giving heart. Courtney Love further honored him by reading passages from the Bible, as well as some of Cobain's favorite poems by Arthur Rimbaud. She also read excerpts from his suicide note. "I have it good, very good, and I'm grateful. But since the age of 7, I've become hateful towards all humans in general, only because it seems so easy for people to get along that have empathy. Only because I love and feel sorry for people too much, I guess. Thank you all from the pit of my burning, nauseous stomach for your letters and concern during the past years. I'm too much of an erratic, moody baby. I don't have the passion anymore, and so remember it's better to burn out than to fade away. Peace, love, empathy. Kurt Cobain." Francis and Courtney, I'll be at your altar. Please keep going, Courtney. For Francis, for her life, which will be so much happier without me. I love you. I love you. Even today, the rock world still mourns Kurt's death.